Welcome to EZ3 Sport Production. I'm your host Suttles, and today, player profile time, draft time is coming around. We're going to be talking about Jaylen Waddle. Is he our kind of wide receiver? Let's get it. Jaylen Waddle, 5'10", 182-pound wide receiver out of Alabama. Now, we just talked about the last Heisman Trophy winner out of Alabama, Deontay Smith. But Jaylen Waddle is a very interesting prospect because at the beginning of the season, during the preseason predictions, he was actually the one that most experts was picking to actually win the Heisman this season because they felt that he was going to have a breakout year because of his skill set. But he only played 6 games because he ended up getting a broken ankle. And in those 6 games, he had 28 receptions for 591 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, those numbers don't sound really good on the surface, but when you're only condensing it into 6 games, that is hella good. Because if he was able to actually play the amount of games that they played, he possibly may have won the Heisman Trophy like the experts were saying. But he's a very interesting kind of prospect because of his height, his build, and his actual skill set of what he can do good and what he can do bad. Now, going into that, let's look at his strengths. The number one strength he has is speed. He is a speedy wide receiver. They we all know, we've seen the NFL. Speed wide receivers don't really equate to being good because they run so damn fast, but they have no technique. But with this guy, he has the speed and he has the technique to be able to become a really good wide receiver. Second thing, he's very versatile. Because of his small frame and because of his speed, Alabama used him in a multitude of ways. They had him on the outside, they had him in the slot, they had him in the backfield. He was basically like a chess piece that you can move anywhere on the field, and he was going to be effective, and he was going to bring that kind of attention to him because he was always a breakout kind of guy. Route running. He's pretty good with route running, especially on the deep routes. In the short routes, but the intermediate routes, that's what needs a little bit of work. I'll talk about that a tad bit later. And the other thing, he is a big play guy. He is very explosive. He has big play capability all the time. You have to defend for that, and you can't teach speed. That's one of the things you just can't do in the NFL. You can't teach speed. But with his big play capability, he can maybe be the guy to open it up for Danny because he's also able to create loads of separation. Because he has a good mixture of route running and speed, he creates so much separation that gives him the capability of being that big time, big play wide receiver. Let's look at his weaknesses. One of his weaknesses is the intermediate routes. He runs good short routes and he runs good deep routes, but the intermediate are the ones that he's having trouble with. He just gets excited to a point where he takes that extra step and he doesn't cut it off as crisp as it's supposed to be, which gives the defender the extra time and the extra step to be able to cut in and make a play on the ball. And you can't do that in the NFL. In college, you can probably get away with it, a multitude of times because the defenders aren't athletic and they're not as smart as the guys in the NFL. In the NFL, if you take one step more than you're supposed to, if you're going on an intermediate in route, that ball will most likely get picked. That ball will get knocked down. You cannot do that in the NFL. So that's one of the things that he has to work on. Another thing, blocking. As I said in my last video, these wide receivers, most of their weaknesses are going to be blocking because of they are wide receivers. That's the last thing on their mind. But also, when it comes to with Jaylen Waddle, it's because of his small frame and you're moving him all over the place. He's a chess piece. So you just want him to be very dynamic wherever he's at. The last thing on his mind is going to be blocking. When he's in the game, if he's on the outside, you don't really want to run to his side. That's taken away from the ability that he has. And the third thing is more so injury. Now, one of the biggest things about injury is it can be a small thing or it can be a big thing. It just depends on how the person works and what kind of training that they're doing. He had a broken ankle and he came back into the national championship game, and everybody's seen how he looked when he caught that drag route, and everybody's seen how he was limping. I understand it was the national championship game, but he should not have been out there on that field. You can just look at it, and he shouldn't have been out there. Now, it doesn't look like that he injured it anymore, but with a broken ankle and the way that things heal, we need to see what kind of player he's going to be in the NFL, because that kind of injury can really linger into the NFL and really hinder him from being what he can fully be. But it can also not. Only time will tell. Now, the best player comparison that I can see for Jaylen Waddle is Tyreek Hill. The same build, the same type of skill set, but the thing about Tyreek Hill, when he first came into the league, he had the same exact skill sets. Speed, he could create separation, he was dynamic, but you just didn't know if he was going to be able to pan out in the NFL, because most, speed guys really don't pan out. I mean, John Ross ran the fastest 40 time ever, and we all see what happened to him. But Tyreek Hill had the unique work ethic to work on his route running, which he ended up doing. But he also came into a very good situation in Kansas City where he had some pretty good quarterbacks like Alex Smith, who didn't really use his big play ability as much as what we're seeing with Patrick Mahomes, because Andy Reid knows how to use Tyreek Hill in all a multitude of ways. Him and Eric Bieniemy, they used Tyreek Hill in a multitude of ways, and that's why he's an all-pro, along with his work ethic. Now, Jaylen Waddle has the same type of skill set of how Tyreek Hill did coming out of Oklahoma State. Now, the biggest thing, which I like Waddle, I really do like Waddle as a prospect, but we really have to ask ourselves, Giants Nation, do we want that type of dynamic, big play capability, versatile player in Jason Garrett's offense? Can Jason Garrett use Jaylen Waddle in the correct way? That will be the question. And for me, from what I've seen of Jason Garrett in the past and what I've just seen from him last season, I do not believe that a prospect like Jaylen Waddle, he will get the full capabilities of this prospect. So as I like Jaylen Waddle as a prospect, I do not like him for the Giants, simply because Jason Garrett, I think he would misuse him, and he would just end up being like a Tavon Austin or a Cordell Patterson, where he has the capability, but that potential was never tapped. And this has been a Subtle's Take for Easy 3 Sport Production. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also share the video. Sharing is caring. Help the channel grow. Until next time, I'm out.